Good morning, everybody. This is another update on now Hurricane Melissa, currently extremely rapidly intensifying at the moment in the central Caribbean Sea. Just to the south of Jamaica, we've currently got this storm with a very defined central dense overcast structure, nice vertical hot towers wrapping around a already pretty well cleared out eye, though continues to clear out further as it still does have some work to be doing. You can see that some of them are actually mesothelts in there in the eye, which are actually rotating, and them merging are currently contributing to significant pressure falls and contributing to the extreme rapid intensification that Melissa is currently undergoing. Other things to note will be the extensive cirrus extending outwards currently to the north and to the west as part of the upper level outflow and extreme upper level divergence, also contributing to the rapid intensification. And also a side note, we've also got some of these bands here which are developing on the eastern side as part of extensive trade wind flow meeting with the storm, and a lot of those bands are actually moving over Hispaniola and into Jamaica, which is resulting in some significant continuation of heavy rainfall, which has been long expected to happen, and is expected to contribute to very devastating impacts in those regions. And this is only the beginning for Jamaica, unfortunately, because as the storm is heading westwards now and will be making that turn to the north through Jamaica and into eastern Cuba, we are going to see a very devastating landfall. The National Hurricane Center now expects a Category 5 hurricane to near Jamaica before slowly weakening and then making landfall as a high-end Category 4. But either way, there is absolutely very minimal difference between a high-end Category 4 and a low-end Category 5 in terms of impacts, and residents in the area should absolutely get ready for a historic storm in the region, because Jamaica has not had a hurricane like this, at least to my memory, not ever. So again, I would like to reiterate to those that say that Jamaica's been used to it and they've gone through it already, it's absolutely not true. Nothing like this has happened in the past 30 years, 50 years, going onwards for as long as you probably could go. Very few hurricanes have happened like this, and Melissa's probably going to be taking the crown for some of the most devastating impacts, unfortunately, in the coming days. Those in Jamaica are probably unable to evacuate now, and the impacts will be coming shortly, at least beginning shortly, and they will be extensive across multiple days. Please make sure you are prepared if you are in Jamaica. It's not going to be good, believe me. Now, some of the stuff here, we can see that now Melissa is a hurricane. It does now possess a hurricane wind field, and to say that it's just a hurricane is a bit of an understatement, because at the 6E position it is 110 knots with the maximum winds. That is equivalent to 125 miles per hour. That is a high-end Category 3, but let me tell you what, it's not a Category 3 anymore. This resembles more of a Category 4, and if you do guess it's a Category 4, you'd be absolutely right. Because if we go to National Hurricane Center Advisory here, it is now 140 miles per hour or 120 knots as of the 9Z 5 AM Eastern Daylight Time update, the latest advisory. And this is not the first advisory that they are forecasting a Category 5 peak intensity. This time they are now forecasting 2 Category 5 points over the course of 24 hours. But the technical discussion, does actually suggest that an arrival replacement cycle may be possible and might result in some fluctuations in intensity. There is still over 48 hours before landfall in Jamaica, and if an arrival replacement cycle does go successfully, which is possible, an increased wind field would result in higher storm surge onto the island, which again would not be ideal. Even now, any impacts with the current state of the hurricane would be absolutely devastating. But there are some things to keep an eye out for. Now, aircraft reconnaissance was in the system earlier today. There was an Air Force mission that concluded earlier, a few hours ago, and we did see a significant pressure deepening rate. I think that's 972 earlier on the first pass. The last pass recorded at 959 millibars, 959 millibars. And to my knowledge, I think, before I looked at the video, I believe the pressure drop rate was something like 5-ish millibars an hour, which was absolutely incredible, and it's still probably maintaining that rate as we speak. So it's intensifying very quickly, as we can see here. A bit of a close-up look at the vortex data message at 442Z a few hours ago. We got that 959 millibar drop sond with a closed eyewall, as expected with this type of structure. And yeah, that's what Jamaican radar data also seems to be suggesting. Now let's look at some of the guidance here. We'll take a look at the GFS first. If we go back to its initial point here, and we see it initializes not so great. We must keep an eye out, as I spoke yesterday. The initialization of a model run is absolutely crucial to determining the reliability of a forecast, and currently I can't say that's very reliable. Currently the pressure is estimated by National Hurricane Center, I believe, to be estimated at around 944 millibars. At 6Z, it was 954. Now obviously this is a 0Z run, and I think this is more of a case of poor prediction of near-time evolution. But yeah, I mean, to see that it's verified a bit poorly already, and that might be an understatement, this forecast, at least for intensity, shouldn't be used. But we'll take a look at it anyway, because there will be some very critical factors we could be able to get from this model run solutions. And we can see steady intensification. Obviously it doesn't actually, before Jamaica, it doesn't actually get as deep as it currently is right now. So again, another critical point to make, just to say that, using this intensity forecast that the GFS has outputted is not very smart, I'd say. But what is interesting though is after it does make landfall in Jamaica and it moves into Cuba, it does actually re-strengthen quite a bit post Jamaica. We're looking at about 20 millibar drop here, which is actually incredible. And this is probably because of the environment, and we will look at the environment throughout, because again, while the GFS solution does underdo intensification massively, we can have a good idea of the environment nonetheless. And again, like I point out in the satellite imagery, we do have our extensive upper level outflow feeding into the jet. There into the jet that is actually quite a low latitude, but it is normal for this time of year, which is kind of what gives rise to some of these late season hurricanes in the Caribbean, is this jet being a bit further south. And as it moves through near Jamaica, got that outflow that does persist, then it moves inland, and that outflow actually ends up strengthening as it moves past Cuba, as it starts interacting with this dipping trough that's actually steering Melissa northward at this time. So it will support Melissa, and yeah, we could get a rebound at this point before Cuba. Cuba should definitely be ready as well. Cuba's got hurricane watch in place. If we look at the forecast cone there, hurricane watch in place. And with regards to rainfall, I'll go a bit more into that. Jamaica will be suffering quite a bit, but yeah, Cuba is going to be within the range of fire here. They must absolutely be prepared as well. So yeah, after Cuba, it goes through the Bahamas. They've got to watch out too. Turks and Caicos as well. And yet that upper level outflow does remain as it interacts with this trough and moves poleward. But there is obviously going to be an increase of shear as a penalty for this as well. So this storm intensity probably category 2, high in category 1 as it moves poleward. And then moves near Bermuda and accelerates over into the mid-latitudes. Let's look at the soundings here for this time. Now, if we look at the recon data here, and we look at the drop sondes measurement of the sensor, we can actually see there is actually quite a bit of a southwest motion. If we look at the GFS sounding, we'll be able to figure out why. We kind of got this more northerly flow in the mid-levels here, 400, 500 millibars, which is contributing to some of the southward motion just as we approach Jamaica. This northerly flow will end and will contribute to this turn into Jamaica. And yeah, as we leave Jamaica and we go into Cuba, we will have this increase of southwesterly flow which will eventually start to have some significant implications on Melissa and have some detrimental effects with regards to intensification, aka it will not be happening anymore and it will be weakening at that point. But nonetheless, there will be some significant impacts in Cuba and the Bahamas, because we are still looking at a bit of a Category 3 major hurricane, if not a Category 3 hurricane, a strong one nonetheless, higher in Category 2, that starts moving poleward and will weaken only slightly. And yeah, let's not forget the land interaction will be in the way. But the environment does remain conducive, as we see with the GFS. Big significant drop of pressure over the course of a few hours as it approaches Cuba. There is still possibility for intensification. The environment does remain conducive for some intensification before Cuba, and yeah, the storm will take time to weaken. So there will be significant impacts. The Bahamas and Cuba must be watching this very closely and must be making all adequate preparations immediately. Cuba is likely to get a hurricane watch within the next day, and the Bahamas are likely to get into a watch also probably within the next day. They must be preparing. And those in Bermuda should also be watching out closely, as they are now starting to enter the 5-day time range, and impacts are likely to be predicted for them too. With regards to the ECMWF solution, because we only just looked at the GFS solution, we can see that that kind of upper level pattern that we saw with GFS, especially as it moves northwards, does actually kind of stay. But the detrimental impacts are actually quite more noticeable for the ECMWF. The intensity after it moves off Jamaica does decrease. There is still the possibility of intensification on this run, and it is actually still quite notable. But after Cuba, and if anything over Cuba to begin with, the land interaction is actually much more detrimental here, and it is unable to rebound too much. It does rebound quite a bit, maybe goes up back to a hurricane at this point, high-end Category 1, but there is definitely an evident effect from this trough here, and the jet with all this southwesterly flow definitely shearing the system and keeping it capped at a lower intensity. And yeah, it approaches Bermuda at this time, probably a Category 1 hurricane at this point, maybe high-end tropical storm at that latitude, so impacts are possible at that time. And with the soundings, there's not much different here compared to the GFS. The global models are poorly resolving the intensification of the system, that's not surprising, but again we do have kind of a good insight into the environment here through these soundings, and yeah, somewhat kind of what you would expect. You have that increase in southwesterly shear after Cuba and the Bahamas, and yeah, near Cuba we're seeing that there is this increase in southwesterly flow, but it doesn't get too strong enough just yet to have any significant implications. That upper level outflow exists, and the oceanic heat content to offset any of the other negative implications to result in some rebound after Jamaica. And obviously, pre-Jamaica, we already know that this environment is going to remain conducive for significant intensification up to Category 5 status. This shear isn't going to be enough to offset some of the largely positive factors like the warm ocean waters and the very strong upper level outflow that we've seen already. Again, another piece of the guidance, we'll look at the hurricane models in a second, but I did want to bring up attention back to the Google DeepMind ensemble, which, as we can see here, again, sharp turn into Jamaica. There's a good agreement on this track. No clear kind of consensus on where in Jamaica. There's still a little bit of uncertainty that, but there is almost certainly going to be a landfall. And yeah, same goes for eastern Cuba. We don't know exactly where, but there is probably going to be a landfall there. And it will move northeastwards into the open Atlantic. Again, larger uncertainty, 5-day, 6-day period as it goes out into the open Atlantic. That's completely normal. And Bermuda will probably be near and certainly within your ensemble envelope within the next few days. There is still lots of uncertainty on where exactly it will go. Bermuda might get impacts, Bermuda might not. Bermuda does still need to be watching. And most importantly, we do see this very, very large amount of members going up to such a high intensity, if not all, I believe that is all, reach Category 4 or Category 5 intensity on this model run. The ensemble mean is a very strong Category 4 hurricane, 132 knots, but the vast majority of members on this model run at 0Z earlier today do reach the Category 5 intensity right before the Jamaica landfall. And if we look here as well, we do see a lot of the members rebound to a Category 4 intensity right before Cuba, so very strong impacts there as well. And yeah, if we look here as well, after Cuba, we do see actually a bit of a slight rebound, despite some of the degrading environmental conditions, up to Category 3, some even Category 4 intensity at this time. But there does seem to be quite some weakening afterwards, as that shear does start getting undeniably hostile to the system, and there is going to be some weakening. And yeah, just one more final look at the model guidance, and I'll just show the hurricane models. We'll start with the HAFS A, and those are resolving a lot better what the evolution is looking like, especially in the short term, because these are actually taking in and assimilating all this reconnaissance aircraft data that we do need to be putting into these systems for the most accurate initialization and subsequently the forecast. As I said, the initialization really matters to actually get a good grasp of where it's at right now, what it's looking like right now, to then know what is likely to be happening next, and that kind of stuff. Although that is much more oversimplified than what it actually is like working with these models. So if we look at the beginning, this is 12Z, this is 9Z, obviously a forecast for the 0Z initialization. I should be putting out my pen. And yeah, we see here that the initialization at 97 millibars is accurate, at least for the initialization time. And yes, we do have a much more realistic deepening rate that kind of matches what we're having right now. Though I must note, we are actually much deeper than this anyway. Although the hurricane models are resolving the current intensification much better, we are still performing much stronger and intensifying much more quickly than these hurricane models have actually resolved at the 0Z run. So that is not a good sign for Jamaica or even Cuba in the long run. And again, it must be closely watched what Melissa's going to be doing over the next 2 days. We'll also need to be closely watching what these next few hurricane model runs will be doing in response to some of the newer initializations and some of the more recent reconnaissance aircraft data that we got, particularly after 0Z. We'll be taking a look at what some of those models will be trending towards now that some of the verification of these runs earlier on are going to be much poorer. But what do we have right now? We do still have some significant intensification nonetheless. We're looking at high-end Category 4 here, reaching a low of 939 millibars before slow weakening as it nears Jamaica, and there is going to be some mountainous effect before landfall, which will degrade the system, but nonetheless, if anything, this mountainous terrain will make impacts worse, if anything. So, nonetheless, weakening, but impacts going to be stronger, really, much more severe. And again, I will repeat, I'll take this time to say that if you are a mountainous terrain, get down, get away. These are exposed areas, and if you are on the side of a mountain, you get these landslides, mudslides in low-lying areas, flash flooding. Almost nowhere in Jamaica is safe, but if you are wanting to get into a safe spot, which ideally you should, please get into an area that is not on low-lying ground, which is isolated and prone to flooding. Exposed areas certainly not, side of mountains definitely not. Get into more of a flat space away from the coast, because there would be storm surge near the coast as well. There's lots of vulnerabilities everywhere. The chance to evacuate would have been the best idea to do. Currently, there is going to be a very significant situation in Jamaica, and again, one of the worst hurricanes they've probably had. If you are there, please listen to any advice and get to the most safe spot you can get to, because you are going to be at risk if you're going to be in quite a lot of areas, really. It's very important you get into safety. These mountains are not safe. Mountainous areas are always going to be the worst ones in the event of heavy rainfall and significant wind. We'll be able to look at the situation post-Jamaica here now, and we do see a kind of a stagnation, really. No weakening, but no intensification either. Likely, like we saw in the global models, we would probably see some intensification. If we look at the environment here, and we go into the parent view, we'll be able to see that we get that same upper level outflow environment that would be conducive for intensification. If we get a sounding profile here loaded up, we'll also be able to see what it looks like. And generally this shear environment, although the max shear in the mid to low levels is 22 knots, in the deep flare it's only 10 knots. And with that upper level environment and the ocean waters being so warm as they are, this would be conducive for a possible rebound, as long as the core structure isn't too loose after passing through Jamaica, because it will be broadening out after that land interaction, especially with the mountainous terrain. There will be some significant implications on the storm structure. We'll need to be closely looking at that later down the line to see exactly what implications that may have. And yeah, after Cuba, we see that there is going to be some more notable weakening down to Category 2, maybe high in Category 3 status, passing through the Bahamas, and there is actually a bit of a slight rebound there. Again, those interactions with the jet stream and troughs can be favourable for tropical cyclones, although that shear is going to be increasing shortly after. Like we saw with the deep mine ensemble, this is going to be short-lived, and there will be some weakening afterwards, especially as it approaches Bermuda. But one thing to note though is this house solution does actually get to Bermuda at a fairly stronger intensity compared to some of the other global models and some of the other guidance. Something to watch out for, because there could be some slower weakening, especially if the storm is a bit stronger than anticipated this time. And again, just a quick comparison to the deep mine ensemble here, you can see that there is a slight rebound there with some drastic weakening afterwards. It does get down to about Category 2, Category 1 intensity while it nears Bermuda. Again, Bermuda should be watching this closely, because they could be within the firing range in the near future. A closer look at some of the impacts here, and looking at the impact products issued by the NHC here. As of the latest advisory, which was issued just now, Jamaica should be listening to every single piece of advice they can get that's actually worth listening to, and there is lots of it out there on the internet, so please don't ignore it. There is a genuine risk to life. It is big. I cannot emphasize how significant this threat is. Jamaica has not seen a hurricane like this before. Gilbert 1988 would be nothing like this. It is going to be one hell of a hurricane that must be prepared for extensively. There is not much time to prepare. Those impacts are going to start coming in now, especially if we look at the rainfall forecast, which I will zoom in now and actually discuss more extensively. That is very significant rainfall. That is multiple feet of rain dropping on some high terrain of eastern Jamaica. If you are in that area, please, I would advise at least moving to the west of the island. There is a bit more consensus now that the eastern side of the island is going to be much more significantly hit. If you're in Kingston, you could get the biggest brunt of hurricane force winds coming at you as that core plunges through the urban area. If I had to give some really short, rough advice on what the best place could be to get to, it's starting to look like Montego Bay and the western side of the island might be most ideal, but please just know that nowhere in Jamaica is particularly safe. Jamaica is going to get hit hard in all angles, in every part of the island, but if there's any place I'd rather be at, it would not be the eastern side of the island, where most of those bands will be piling in from the south, at least from the east now, but from the south, when the cyclone passes down from the south and up through northeast later on, there will be lots of banding and subsequent lots of heavy rainfall and convective activity on this side of the island, resulting in that forecast of up to 40 inches of rainfall in isolated areas. It is absolutely not safe to be there. If you are in Kingston, and particularly on this side of the island, it may be a very, very, very catastrophic situation. So, although my advice should be taken at a lesser priority compared to other people's and other agencies, this is my recommendation. We are looking at some pretty significant impacts. Significant, again, understatement. I cannot emphasize how catastrophic impacts on this side of the island could be. I would get to the west and definitely get off low-lying areas, coastal areas and high ground areas. They are not safe to be in. Storm surge in particular will be particularly bad on the eastern side of the storm. So this side of the island again, all impacts catastrophic. It is not going to be safe here. With regards to Hispaniola, we have an increased threat of rainfall now, increased to 20 inches on this outlook. And for much of the southern part of the peninsula, sorry, the most southern part of the island here, we got widespread 16 to 20 inches forecast, and also quite a wide swath of 20 to 30 inches on on the western side of Tiburon Peninsula of Haiti. Again, not safe to be in, especially because these are very mountainous areas. There's a massive risk of significant landslides, mudslides, flash flooding in these areas. If you are there, please evacuate, go up north. It is not safe to be in these areas. And Cuba, again, later down the line, you will get significant hurricane impacts, but rainfall, 12 to 16 inches widely across eastern Cuba, will be a very existential threat that must be watched out for as well. A reminder that storm surge and heavy rainfall flooding impacts are amongst the worst impacts with regards to death rate in tropical cyclones. Please seek the advice of the local meteorological service and keep up to date with National Hurricane Center impact forecasts and impact resources, impact information. National Hurricane Center are the official agency for the North Atlantic Basin with regards to issuing forecasts and warning information. And your local meteorological service will provide more in-depth, detailed information with regards to your area. Please keep up to date with those services. Absolutely crucial. They will provide the best, highest quality advice and information on what to do as a result of these impacts. I will be having another update either tonight or tomorrow morning. So keep up to date with me if you wish. I'll be providing more coverage and in-depth discussion on what Melissa will be doing and what Melissa's current evolution is. But the most important advice will be coming at National Hurricane Center. Heavy rainfall, catastrophic storm surge, winds, you name it, absolutely everything will be a disastrous scene across much of the Greater Antilles over the course of the next few days. Keep updated, and I wish you guys a very safe next few days. Please stay safe. Good luck to you all. And I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks for watching.